It's quiet. It's so quiet. Anyways, welcome to the Late Night Restaurant Show, everyone. It's interesting not having Dominic or Mr. Beck on the show when we're doing these. It's a little awkward in a way because typically they're the ones that are always kind of smack talking me and everything. So I'm going to smack talk them a little because they're not here tonight. And we have a great guest on the show tonight. And I think it's going to be so cool to talk about all the things that I feel that he's an expert on. He knows a lot about. It's really going to be a rated. Oh boy, I've got marbles in my mouth lately, and I think it's maybe the blood pressure pills or whatever the case is. Um, anyways, he's an expert when it comes to the entrepreneurial mindset, I believe, of people. We're going to learn. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I think we need to talk about that when it comes to the industry that we are in when it comes to the food service and hospitality. So I want to talk a little bit about that tonight, what it means to be a mentor for business people. And just kind of a general conversation around, maybe we'll talk a little bit about wine. I think he knows a little bit about wine as well. And anyways, we're going to get started here, folks. Dominic, Mr. Beck. Mr. Beck is in Vegas, I believe, still. Oh, he's flying back right now. He's on the road. And Dominic is at an important meeting he just could not get out of. Sorry, Dominic. Everyone, enjoy tonight. Here we go. Maxim, hi, welcome.
Thank you, Jay. I'm excited to be here and joining you in the late night restaurant show.
Are you a rookie at podcasts?
I am. I think
Are you?
This is my first podcast. Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Ah. It's interesting. So many people you get on there, you never ask that question. And you know, I think I'm sitting around, well, getting closer to about 1,700 shows now.
Wow.
And you know it's gonna be a big number.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forget to ask people that because if it is your first time, well, I'm so glad that I'm your first, and I'm so glad for you to join us. And usually we got two others that would smack talk me right about now for asking you that or saying that. But I just want to thank you for taking the time tonight and to join us on Late Night Show and to talk about all these good things that we're going to talk about tonight. But like we say to all of our guests, who are you? Tell us a little bit about you before we get into it.
Pleasure. Originally from Bulgaria, came over to Canada in 1997 to go to university. And this is kind of where my entrepreneurial journey starts. I figured out that in Canada, you can load up your course catalog because I was taking 8 courses. So I managed to finish, because you were not getting charged for more than 5 courses. So I managed to finish university in 3 years. And I started I started my first company in the third university with one of my marketing professor and 2 other guys. And that's how it all started. So I remember I was in organizational psychology. I think it was the course. And my professor was asking me like, well, this was like psychology 101 or something like that. She asked me, what do you want to do? I said, I want to start my business. She's like, you're in the wrong place, not university. You should be in a community college. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think I'm in the right place. Yeah.
That was really cool.
So that
did you go to Did you go to U of C?
I went to University of New Brunswick.
Oh, you're in New Brunswick. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was there at the time. So ran the company for 3 years. It was in production and video production, and then joined EY. So I spent the remaining probably like the next 20 years in consulting, Big Four, Deloitte and EY, traveling around primarily North America, serving clients, big Fortune 500 clients. Then I went into industry as the chief audit executive at a pipeline company. And then in 2018, I left and started my own private equity company that then evolved into a venture studio that then evolved into a consulting company. The company name is Future Ventures. And so I've always had it in my blood. I remember I was still with Deloitte when I started my wine company, and that's been a fantastic ride.
Wow. So now you're the general partner for Future Ventures Corp. Is that correct?
Yes.
So what is that? You're so awesome.
So
So tell us about that.
so when I started the company in 2018, it I wanted to be an investor. I thought I know a lot about investing because I mean I've been in business. I've been
Yeah.
advising companies and clients forever and ever, and so I started to write checks and invested in companies, and that was mediocre at best. I learned the hard way that writing checks without having ability to influence the outcome of the company or the direction is not the best. So this is when we started to transition to a venture studio. This is where people would come to us with an idea, or we would have an idea around how to incubate a company or what we would like to do.
Yeah.
And this become quite successful because what we focus there is like we would have an idea. Let's say that it's around wine. Well, there's different, like in Canada, we have the 3-tier system. You have like the importer, the distributor, the government, and then you have the licensee. But how can you attach yourself to either horizontally or vertically to the value chain to be able to create a moat or create a captive system? So this is where we started to create adjacent companies, whether it's around marketing, whether it's around training, whether it's around distribution, whether it's around transportation, to be able to capture more of the value chain or more of the revenue stream. And so this became a lot more interesting and a lot more successful because essentially we were creating a barrier of entry for other companies to enter, as well as commanding higher proportion of the profit margin.
Really? So you're making more money by helping more businesses?
By capturing more of the value chain, because you become more and more integrated. Yes.
That is wild.
Yep.
That is wild. Now it must be quite difficult to be an investor. There's got to be things like, how do you know what to invest in? Do you have you've got to have principles. There's got to be some principles there.
Well, we do, and those are posted on the website. So our investment thesis is there. We have an investment committee that reviews deals. We receive probably 1 to 2 serious pitches a week that we review. A week. Yeah, I mean, if I just see things that just people would just either put it through the contact form on a website or just set it directly on LinkedIn or something, like it's a lot more than that. But serious pitches, people that have actually researched and say, okay, well, this fits within the investment thesis, we get 1 to 2 a week. The amazing part about this, Jay, is it's probably the best school that you can get, because like I'm always learning something new about the market through those pitch presentations, because they would have new market data, or they would have new ideas, or they would be able to create adjacency around our thinking. So this has been phenomenal. One thing that I have learned as an investor, that it's never about the idea, it's about the execution. And so you may, let's say that it's a restaurant, you may have the best restaurant concept ever, but it's not about the concept. It's about the consistency, and it's about the execution. So that means that if we're working backwards, it really comes down to who is the founding team or who is the execution team. Do they have the grit? Do they have the perseverance? Do they have the talent? Do they have the consistency? It's going to get tough. So can this team or founder persevere through the ups and downs that would come with it?
Now, how much is it about is that equal into the person? Is it the person too, or the team?
It's the person is the team. It really depends on how big the team is, but it's definitely about the person. It's never about the idea. It's never about the company. So, I mean, that's why a lot of private equity companies or venture capital firms would have entrepreneur in residence. It's because they know that person has the ability to execute successfully. They just don't have the right idea yet. So they're just sitting kind of on the sideline, coaching, mentoring, coaching teams until the right idea or the right opportunity comes along.
That is crazy. So the person, so you must have seen it where it's like, well, it's a great idea, but you just don't have it.
Well, for sure.
Now, can you coach them? Can you coach them to get there?
Absolutely. And But this is why we evolved from being pure private equity into a venture
Yeah.
studio / consulting, because we started coaching relationship. We understand who they are as a person. This becomes our due diligence.
Yeah.
It gives us the confidence to say, yep, this person has the talent or has the perseverance or has the knowledge to execute successfully. And then writing a check becomes almost a no-brainer because you have done all of the hard work. Whereas if you're just doing due diligence on a pitch deck,
Yeah.
you have very limited information. Sure, you can go into the deal room and see what's there, but you're pretty limited.
Okay, so so first of all, I'm grateful that you're on the show tonight because man, do I have questions for you.
Sure.
So because one thing is I have Arlene Dickinson coming on the show too.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Arlene's going to come on here. I'm going to ask her a lot of questions as well.
Yep.
But I do have. So do you have to train people on building relationships with other people? Do you find people have less relationships like they did in the past? Is that a struggle for some people?
Absolutely. I mean, the statistics are there. There's obviously we live in the loneliness epidemic, and one of my favorite podcasters is Scott Galloway, and he's very vocal when he talks about the loneliness epidemic. That's why I have borrowed one of his sayings that, which is drunkenness means togetherness. Because if you're going out to restaurants and having fun, you are social. So I've adopted this because it's so true. Like a lot of us sit behind a computer. So this is one data point. Like before we started the call, I was talking to you about us taking over a community of independent owners. And we did a survey with them. And the top 4 challenges, number 1 was sale. But number 2 was loneliness. Like
really?
Not in the perspective of like I feel lonely or I don't have friends, which is obviously an epidemic, but more so I feel isolated. Who do I turn to for advice? Like I want this either peer network or I want a mentor, I want a coach, somebody to bounce off ideas.
Yeah, they need a coach.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I coach about 20 some restaurants right now. And I find that a lot of the times we don't even get into, the things that we're working on. They just wanted someone to talk to about business. And that I hate to, sorry, I'm not going to tell my boss this, but I hate to say it. Half the time is just having a conversation about their business ideas or about their restaurants. And it's really good. And I'm so appreciative of it. And because to your point earlier, I learned so much from them.
Oh, absolutely.
You learn so much by having them, but I find a lot of people still have, I find and it's weird because I go back to my dad was a professional storyteller. I always say if he was alive today, I would have made him a podcaster because he was incredible. He could talk nonstop. And I look at that today and I remember doing some sessions with a group not that long ago. And I think it was actually in Kananaskis. And I was teaching people how to talk to people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like how to have conversations with people, because to your point where, we got mobile devices or computers in front of us, we forget to have conversations with people.
Yep.
How do you get people to get doing that? Like, what's your take on that? How do you get people to train them on that? That must be kind of interesting.
Have you heard of Michael Jordan? Like I used to say to my kids, and I still do, but it like my mindset is slightly changed. I've and my kids can quote me. Practice makes perfect.
Yes.
Michael Jordan's like the basketball player. He's saying is like, no, practice incarnates habits. It's the adjustments of those habits that really create the perfection. And so my personal perspective around talking to people is like, just go and have a conversation. Just go and approach them. Like you will be surprised. And so people online, people in person are amazing humans.
Yeah, isn't it? It's so funny because when we do podcasts that we record, we get some people, and I'm not sure if you guys send it across. I can't remember. I get so many requests of when we plan our shows out. Is people always say so what do we talk about? Like we're just gonna have a conversation. Like it's and then I've been on shows where they'll send you a show rundown. They'll be like, "Okay, we're going to talk about this," and I was like, "So we're just going to have coffee." Like,
Yeah.
and people are like, "So how do I practice, Jay?" I said, "Well, okay, get a big cup of coffee or a glass of wine, and let's sit down and just talk." Because
Yeah.
that's the thing. I think that's the conversation that we need to start having. I think that's what's problematic, possibly in the world today, that
Yeah.
we're just not talking anymore. We're not having it. And Simon Sinek has said, I'm a huge fan of Simon.
He's awesome.
He always talks about how and this is probably, I don't know if it's post COVID, but the importance of the water cooler talk.
Yep.
We don't have that anymore. It's gone.
Well, a lot of people work from home. I mean,
Yeah,
now we're seeing the RTO mandate in terms of
yeah,
returning to office, and so that's helping. The other thing that I find, so I'm originally from Bulgaria. Um, so when it came to Canada, one of my big aha moment, you talked about this pause moment, was like people would ask you, "How are you?" and I'll proceed to tell them how I was feeling. Um,
I'm serious.
so, but but on the flip side, obviously this was a bit of a cultural moment for me. But on the flip side, um, Simon Sinek is a master of being vulnerable. In
Yes,
Canada, we are so reserved, and in North America in
yeah,
general, that like we hold back our feelings.
yeah,
You create connection when you're vulnerable, and
yeah.
so without this honest, authentic expression of emotions, it's really hard to make a connection because everything else is superficial. You're talking about the weather, you're talking about the game, you're talking
Yeah.
about the traffic, but that doesn't create connection.
Do you find a lot of business people are not vulnerable enough, or don't even
Oh,
like are
sure,
not vulnerable? Period.
for sure, for sure. There's a book that I absolutely love by Kim Scott called Radical Candor, and that's what I
Hmm.
try to practice with my teams. Um, it's it it's really hard, and particularly some cultures are it's more pronounced for them. English people, very hard to get the truth out of them. They're just
Really?
reserved. They just never say things the way that they are. Canadian people, we're very polite to a
Yeah.
fault. So getting to radical candor, getting to vulnerability. I mean, vulnerability for a long time was seen as a sign of weakness. I
Weakness.
mean,
Yeah, it was. It was. It really was. I
so
think it still is today, though.
oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So when you see people like Simon Sinek or Scott Galloway cry,
Yeah.
it has normalized it more, but still, like you and I are men, and so our machismo mindset is like, if I cry, I'm seen as weak and vulnerable. But in my mind, it's necessary because how else do you express emotion? Otherwise, you're bottling in inside you.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I do love that about Simon. Some of his podcasts and things he talks about, some of his personal challenges and stuff, and it's really interesting because I remember I was well, this is probably before COVID. I was listening to Simon really didn't get into podcasts much, so you got to watch him on YouTube because he does his TED Talks and different things like that. And then through COVID, he ramped up his podcast, and now I listen to it religiously. But
Mhm.
you can see that in the sense of strong is the ability to be authentic as well, like you said. And I find a lot of people, and I try to take a lot of the DNA of what he does and put it into how I work and what I do with my business or my coaching, or what I do within the teams I get to work with. And I find sometimes people look at it and go, it's also a point of, there's a negative touch to it, like people, he doesn't know what he's doing, or
Mhm.
or it's, he's not strong enough. Do you find businesses need to, and we talked about that, not needing to be like that, but how do you get over that? How do you continue to get past that of worrying what others really think about you in the business world, and just kind of go on your path your own way? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, nope, not doing it, not getting derailed. How do you keep going on that?
I mean, in business, in consulting, we always talk about culture, and so we talk about tone at the top, mood at the middle, buzz at the
Okay.
bottom. And so
Okay.
it's easy to remember TTMMBB. So tone at the top, mood in the
Tone at the
middle,
top.
buzz at the bottom. So obviously, in order for this to be normalized and to be accepted, it kind of has to start at the top. So you need the leader to show that it's okay. It's okay to fail.
Okay.
It's okay to express. It's okay to speak up. They have to encourage. And then this galvanizes the behavior, the middle layer, the middle management to say, yep, I will carry on because it gets rewarded. Like this is accepted. If I fail, failure is celebrated because we learn from it. And then it starts, the flywheel effect just starts to turn, and then everyone at the bottom sees this as normal. So you're shaping the culture in a way that celebrates this. If you want people to speak up, if you want ideas to be shared, if you want innovation, if you want vulnerability, you have to create the tone at the top.
Wow. What's it like being a mentor for you?
I love it.
What's it personally like for you to be a mentor?
For me, it's the inherent gratification of making a difference for somebody in my life. It's not external. It's just this intrinsic motivation, inherent gratification, knowing that they've made somebody's life better. Like, I'll give you an example. So 4 years ago, we have a partnership with the European Commission, and we bring interns here from Europe.
Oh, serious? That's cool.
Yeah. So one of my interns, Giovanni Tuori, he works with one of my company, Vino. And so we brought him in as an intern on I think it's a 12-week internship. And he's been here since. And so working visa, now we've applied for permanent residency. But it's amazing to see. He came barely speaking any English. I mean, barely speaking. And I said, Giovanni, we're going to focus on two things: English and sales. English and sales, because those are foundational skills. And the other thing that I think is really important is the most underappreciated skill, but it's, in my mind, is the most important skill, is the one that your dad was master at: storytelling. If you have storytelling in sales, you can achieve anything.
Yeah, I feel you can move mountains. You really can. It's interesting because this is another thing that I try to teach people is storytelling. And I know, like, it's lost, but I find it so interesting. Do you find it's like when you mentor people, do you find it's like a drug almost? No, I don't know what that looks like, but you know what I'm saying? Like you get a little taste of it. It's like, whoa, I like helping people. I want to help more. I tell people,
addictive.
It isn't it? It is, right? Like I try to tell this people when I see, and in the restaurant industry, we help people, but a lot of them will only do because here's a couple things about the restaurant industry. I'm sure I've told you this, but they're hardworking, very dedicated, hardworking individuals.
Mm-hmm.
But they get the business thing is a little scary to them sometimes, and they're like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do, or there's this big, I know everything, or I'll just tough it through and stuff like this. I get excited when I see them doing anything, like literally, like we do in the classes that we do a napkin theory. And apparently this is a business thing that I didn't even know. I did it because my dad used to grab the napkin out of the dispenser at the coffee shop while he's telling the stories, and then sometimes write what he was talking about on a 1 cent napkin. And then he would show everyone, and then he'd give it to me, and I'd probably do little doodles on it or something. And I always remembered that. So I kept that theory of, if my dad can create ideas, businesses, build something by drawing the sketch out on a napkin, that a lot of people, I find, we get into that practice. I said, hey, we just need a napkin. They're like, what do you mean? We're going to write on a napkin. You're going to create those ideas. Because I think some of the greatest ideas are probably done on napkins.
Absolutely.
So I try to get them out of their comfort zone. But when you get to see them doing little things from their napkin ideas or their napkin theories, and it becomes addictive, and it becomes so inspiring to see them go, Jay, it worked, or we'll teach them about social media, and I'll go on their page, and their page is lit up, and they're helping people and they're helping people and doing things on social media. I love it. I wish more and more people would get that taste of it.
Yep. The animal with my dog.
I was gonna say the dog. Yeah, we allow dogs on the show, by the way.
You'll see her up here. There she is.
That's awesome.
Lucy, come here.
My dog sometimes comes down too, and they'll.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that. See, that's something that a lot of podcasts will be like, "We cut it." I'm like, no, embrace
yeah,
it.
yeah.
You mentioned Vino Lavino.
Vino, yeah.
What is that?
So I started the company in 2015. So it's now, what is it? 10 years
I was gonna
in
say that's 10
running.
years. 10
Yeah.
years.
And
Wow.
so when I started the company, I was really motivated by a couple of things. One, there was a serendipitous moment in terms of meeting an Italian sommelier that was here, and so we really hit it off. And the other one is like, I grew up in Bulgaria, and my grandparents used to make wine, and at that time I
Okay.
didn't really appreciate or understand what it was. So I would definitely would help my grandparents in the vineyard. So definitely, definitely help them in the cellar for home consumption. What I didn't appreciate at the time that this was natural wine. So it was done without any kind of preservatives or any kind of additives, sulfites,
Yeah.
pesticides, fungicides. It was just organic viticulture, biodynamic viticulture. And so what I was trying to recreate is that this nostalgia moment. So if you would have seen, like, even in the restaurant industry, even in what's happening now, what self you've seen, like particularly with shoes and sneakers, the
Yep.
sambas, so nostalgia really sells in business in DTC. So I was looking to get the wine that they grew up with, and I couldn't. So it's like, well, we'll start importing natural wine, and if we can, our business plan was like, if we can't sell it, we'll just drink it. So we started off with like 12 SKUs and small
Yeah.
quantity, and this really took off. So we were the first one to import orange wine. It did. I mean, at that time, we had a wine tasting with a bunch of restaurants and trade people, and they're
Yeah.
like, "This will never sell. People would never be interested in orange wine. What is orange wine? People would think that this is made out of oranges." And we imported it. And our first orange SKU was a wine called Monte del Cuca from Giovanni Menti, and it sold out within the first month. And I'm like, okay, we're on to something.
No way.
This really grew. So our company is strictly focused on natural, biodynamic, organic, sustainable wines. So these are wines that made with very minimal intervention. We have a really handy graphic that shows that conventional wine can contain up to 200 different ingredients.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. So it's like a manufactured product. It's conventional product. So like anything from colorants, from additives, from enzymes to like
Serious.
200, yes. Whereas most of our wines, it's just grapes. We've moved a little bit away from natural because natural has developed a bad reputation in terms of a lot of young winemakers have gone into it because of the passion and things like that. And that's important, but it has given a bad rep. So if you look at our portfolio now, yes, we have natural producers, but for the most part, we have organic biodynamic producers. And now we have shifted a lot of our portfolio into Bordeaux, first growth, like high-end, rare cowed wines. So this is kind of our specialty now. If you're looking for library releases, if you're looking for rare wines, if you're looking for cowed wines, we have those in place. We work with a lot of Relais and Chateau properties to supply them. So that's where we pride ourselves on: small production, rare production, like cowed wines, things that are difficult to obtain, but we can guarantee you the provenance because we would get them directly either from the negociant or we would get it from the winery itself.
That is amazing. Is there a lot of those kind of companies here in Canada, or do you have to go outside?
I mean, obviously, Alberta has the most liberalized alcohol market in North America, with the only private system where the government, the Alberta Game and Liquor Cannabis Commission serves as the regulator, but for the most part, the system is completely liberalized. Distribution is outsourced to a DHL company called Connect Logistics. So we have 400, not counting consulates and things like that they're considered agencies. We have about 400 different importers. About probably 50 of those are serious. And there's a lot of hobby importers that, like, I went on a trip to Italy. I fell in love with this one, so I'm going to start importing it. That's not us. We have about
Wow.
350 SKUs, and so we focus on things that are very much in demand. And our primary market is restaurants,
Yeah.
like ideally chef-backed restaurants, yeah, that they're creating unique catered experience.
How many restaurants? So it's got to be incredible. You must have to educate restaurants on this stuff.
Originally, when we started, yes.
Okay.
Now, not at all.
Really?
Yes. Now, what we're trying to do is a couple of things. We source product on the request by restaurants. So they would say, I'm looking for this and this. And we would find them the exact product they need, the exact price range to achieve
Yeah.
their required economics. So we would do that. The other thing that we're trying to curate with restaurants is, how do you elevate the experience in the restaurants? So we have started to roll out a training program that essentially trains the staff, the floor staff, being in
Yeah.
in the stores or being in restaurants, on how to serve wine, how to pair wine with the dishes that are in the restaurants, gamifying the experience. Because ultimately, if you look at statistics, there's two restaurant studies that I've recently reviewed, one by Square and one by my old company, Deloitte. And so average like turnover ratio in the restaurant industry is between 11 and 75%. So on the higher range, essentially you're turning over your entire team every 16 months. That's a massive stat. That's a massive drain on resources and cost. So if we can gamify the experience, if we can help restaurants or floor staff sell more, upsell, then that creates more tips. More tips means that they're more interested in working there. So it's a virtuous cycle, because the better the staff is, the better the guest experience, the more money they make, the lower the turnover ratio, the more money the restaurant makes. So we're trying to create these virtuous cycles within the clientele that we serve.
Can I ask you this question about staff, because it comes up a lot? Do you think the restaurant industry has a staffing problem?
Well, if you look at statistics, the number one problem that the restaurants have identified is food cost inflation. Number two is restaurants. That trend was reversed. So last year, the staff was the number one risk, or the number one issue. Yes, but with a qualifier, because you have seen a high escalation in terms of salaries within restaurants, like food service restaurants. The QSR, the quick service restaurants, the salaries have largely stayed the same, or there has been some inflation, but not to the same extent. But also in 2024, we saw the highest bankruptcy rate in restaurants in recent history. So what restaurant owners would tell us is, like, I would rather have somebody that I'm paying $25 an hour, but knows how to storytell, that knows how to upsell, that knows how to work 1, 2, 3 stations, rather than having somebody that I'm paying $15 an hour, but I can only put them in one spot in the restaurant.
Yeah.
So it's all about getting that tailored custom experience, because if somebody's good, they pay for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You're absolutely right. And I was talking to a restaurant the other day, and they were working on hiring some new staff, because some staff have quit, and they said, no one wants to work for me. And I said, I don't buy it. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, I believe we don't talk about the industry, and people have heard me say this before. We do not romanticize and talk how awesome it is in this industry enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We always lean on the negative of the industry. Mm-hmm. It's hard, it's tough, it's mental illness and all these other things. Those things exist, yes. But they don't talk about the good stuff. They don't talk about how you can have a great career. You can have a podcast like we do, or whatever the case is. You can coach people. There's all these things that comes out of this beautiful industry. And I find, and I say, when you look at that, there's two things I want to share with you on that. One, I find that a lot of people don't talk about how awesome it is, but they also look at it as a transitional position within their career base. Or, I'm just going to go to there while I'm in university. I did that too, but I ended up staying and going, this is a pretty cool industry. because it also is an industry that I find that accepts everyone. It doesn't judge. It just brings
Yes.
people in, and you can be, didn't go to university. You could have went to university. It doesn't
Yes.
matter. It does not judge. But I find people in this industry, when they get into those labor problems, they have to relook at what they have as roles or what they do with those people.
Agree.
I'm working right now with a lot of restaurants on diversifying the roles
Agree.
of a restaurateur. So I think when you look at restaurant positions today, you're going to be the chef. I'm like, no, no, no. Yeah, they're going to be a chef, but what else can we get them to do so they're engaged in the business? Maybe they become a mentor for people that want to start to become a chef or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
We have to diversify the roles. And we changed this the other day. I think this was in Saskatoon. We talked about when did the restaurant, I'll ask you this question. When do you think the restaurant industry started the same model that we have today? When do you think it started?
Um,
What century, let's say? Because I'll give you a hint there. What century?
wow. Okay. I'm guessing that we're talking 19th, 20th century earlier. Wow. Okay.
So so I always look at this because even today, one of the coaches we were on today, because I'll talk to you in a second, but I believe every restaurant needs 5 new revenue streams.
Yeah. The
So
happens folk wheel.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So they cannot rely on one rev. And I always say you can't use takeout and you can't use third party delivery as the other as
It's the
one of
revenue
those
job.
five. Yeah, that's classified as just what we have today. So the same model that we use today in restaurant industry was started in 1765.
Wow.
So we do what we do today the same as we did in 1765. Why do we think it's still going to work?
Yes.
And then we go, well, yeah, there's problems with money. It doesn't make us
Yeah.
enough. We have troubles with training and this. Yeah, because we're still doing the same model we did in 1765. The other thing I want to share with you, because I think that's where we get into this entrepreneurship and everything else that we're talking about today, is how exciting it is when you get people to think outside of the 1765 model.
Hmm. Hmm.
We have we teach people how to make $30,000 to $60,000 a year doing newsletters for their restaurants. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, let's make money off of newsletters. And they're like, what do you mean? They just can't fathom it. But it's that thing of working with them and moving them to think differently. We started this show almost 2 years ago. And one of the first shows we had on there, it was just right when, well, there wasn't a tariff scare, but we were coming out of COVID, and people were trying to figure out how to make money and all
Hmm.
these different things, and everyone was starting to see the food inflation go up, but so people were like, well, I got to increase all my prices on my menu. So we did a show. I don't know if you've ever heard it. I should send it to you. It's hilarious because I said I truly believe that we can create a dollar store restaurant model where it's the same model as a dollar store. So they're like, there's no way. I said, I think we can. I think we can make enough other revenue streams for that business that we
Yeah.
can actually sell things like a dollar
Yeah.
store does.
Yeah.
And they're like, there's no way. So we actually brought in, I forget who was on the show with us, and we broke out the math.
Yeah.
And we were able to build a QSR model with a dollar store
Yeah.
mentality. Same model, same business model, $2 to $3. I think the most
Yeah.
was $3 burger. But we had we had so many revenue streams coming in, from advertising on the
Yeah.
walls to working with different marketing companies to advertise on the cups
Yeah.
to swag to having a newsletter, all these different profit generators that weren't the traditional model that allowed us to come in as a dollar store model. We should talk about that one day too, because I think that could disrupt it. And I think when you think like that, you push people to think
Yeah.
differently, and that's the whole idea. It wasn't for us to go, yeah, we're going to go start a QSR model, which is probably someone that did that.
Yeah.
But I want people to think differently like that. But I find it's sometimes. Do you find the process sometimes difficult to get them to think like that?
For sure. I mean, what is the most common thing when you have a successful restaurateur? More often than not, they want to open a second restaurant.
I was going to say, let's open another one.
Very rarely do they say, okay, how do we prepare how do we create meal prep kits?
Yeah.
How do we create a ghost kitchen? How do we create a subscription service?
Yeah.
How do we
Yeah.
create a newsletter? How do we create like this and that? Like, I mean, my wife is in Winnipeg on business trip, and there's a cake shop there, Generate Cakes.
Yep.
Amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. Because the cakes and the pastries are fantastic, but there's a cookbook, there's a subscription, there's
See?
but this is but you know, to your point around the newsletters, it's not about the $40,000-$50,000 coming from the
No.
about the community and the engagement for that loyal
Exactly.
keeping them coming
Exactly.
back. Yeah.
Oh, it's so you're so right because like today we talked to an account. Actually, I hooked him up with a company out of Toronto that I know of and work with. They called Food Ventures, and Karen's
Okay.
over there, and she helps restaurants create CPG products
Yeah.
and create these retail brands. And I said to this coachee today, and I said, "Man, you have the best brand in the industry. You need." And I created something, and I'm sorry, Logan, if I'm going to break this to everyone, but trademark is that we want to create a breakfast. I want him to create a breakfast ketchup because everyone puts ketchup on their breakfast eggs or on their plates, right? But it's the same ketchup that we use for hot dogs and burgers
Yes.
during lunchtime or
Yes.
in dinner time. It's the same thing. I'm like, no, no, no. You need a breakfast ketchup. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, I don't know. It's different flavor. It's got whatever. It works with breakfast and works
Yeah.
with eggs. I said, create a breakfast ketchup and then put your brand on it. He's like,
Yeah.
okay, let's do it. So, but it is those things it's not, and I said to him, it's not so much about the sales of it. It's the fact that when I'm in the grocery store, I'm in the Calgary
Yeah.
Co-op or I'm online, it gives me something to build your brand in through.
For sure.
And allows me to have those channels additionally.
For sure.
And like we look at that. I always go back to the days that when we had matchboxes or like matches for cigarettes and stuff on the tables. And everyone would be like, why do we spend so much money on these? I said, it has nothing to do with the matches. It's the fact they're going to take that match and put it in their house. And I
For
said,
sure.
that's the
Right.
key is how do I get my logo, my brand in their house? On the fridge is a win. If we get it in the junk drawer, it's a win. But I want my brand in their house so they see me every day.
So you reminded me of something. You said that Lynn Dickinson is coming on. One of her portfolio company is a company, I think they're based out of Canmore, and they do barbecue sauces. And so for sure. And so what people like, I mean, I don't know what people are tuning in, but what's amazing about where we live in Alberta is that in Leduc, there's a food lab. Like you can go and formulate products and then you can take those products to market. So imagine if you're a restaurant and you create your own product, you formulate it, and then people take it home, whatever it is. Let's say it's ketchup, or let's say breakfast ketchup, or let's say it's a hot sauce, or maybe it's a salad dressing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's every time you open that fridge door, it's staring you in your face.
Yeah.
So it's my favorite restaurant.
Isn't it? It's brilliant, right? And Karen over at Food Ventures, she says that most restaurants are about 80% the way there already.
Yeah.
They've already got they got the clean facility. They've already been, they're safetied and everything else. They're 80% there. So I'm like, there's a lot of people starting at zero and get a product made and start selling it. You're starting 80% in. And I'm blown away. And you said cookbooks. Like we did that in Saskatoon a few weeks ago. We talked about the power of a cookbook and how you can use KDP on Amazon and create your own. You don't need to go to a publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back into when your chef is downtime, chef, you're going to create a cookbook for our restaurant this year. What? Right? Yeah, we're going to, and then you talk about retention. Yeah, we're going to put your face on the back.
Yeah.
And you're going to be a part of the cookbook. They'll never leave you. Right? And you treat them well. Now you have a restaurant, you have them. They did that with Earl's. We did that with Earl's. I don't know if you've ever heard of Rocco's Restaurant in New York.
No.
And so the owner, I always thought Rocco owned it. Anyways, he doesn't own it. Maybe he does now because he's famous and everything else in New York. And anyways, there was a show on there, and I remember watching the show about the owner of it, and he's a restaurateur, and he has all these restaurants, and he says, "Here's the number one trick to keep a chef." He says, "What is it?" Name the restaurant after the chef. because they'll never leave you. So, I
Yeah.
like that's brilliant, right? So creating a cookbook, having your chef to create a cookbook in the downtime, they would just be floored to be able to do that. And with KDP on Amazon, stuff like this, like I have a couple books on there, journals. I created journals.
Mhm.
Christian Fisher out in New York, one of my friends out there, he taught me how easy it is to get going on that. But I tell you, it is incredible to finally find someone that knows all those things to be able to say there is revenue streams that we need to look at. I don't know if I'm say this to you because I would love your feedback on this, but I look at businesses as you have brick and mortar already, you have
Mhm.
staff, so that's
Mhm.
physical,
Mhm.
like you have a power machine already. Can you maximize that in different ways than the
Exactly.
traditional more, or how do you maximize them? You already got stuff that a lot of people don't have,
Yep.
right? Like my daughter started with $100 to create her companies, and now
Yep.
she's got all these different companies, and she does very well. But it's in a sense, I saw someone that had nothing to grow, and how hard it is. It's hard out there. So
For sure.
my question to you is, how do you keep people motivated? How do you keep them motivated? It's a loaded question.
It is, but it really comes down to doing the discovery, doing the hard work, and understanding what drives them, what motivates them, and then structuring the roles around the things that motivate them. For some people, it may be that, like, let's say that it's a chef, and for them maybe it's the menu engineering, maybe it's the art. For other people, maybe it's like front of the house and elevating guest experience. It really depends on kind of what intrinsically motivates people to be their best.
Mm,
What gives them energy? Like I always advise when you're trying to um, identify what motivates people. Quite often people struggle to answer the question and say, well, what makes you happy, or what gives you
yeah,
energy? It's kind of doing this energy audit, and through elimination they're left with three or four things, and then that tells the picture around, these are the things that make me happy, these are the things that give me the satisfaction, or these are the things that motivate me. Because if you look at statistics, I mean, like, I've worked for a lot of big corporations, and we would do on an annual basis, we would do the engagement employee surveys, and the
yeah, yeah,
number
yeah.
one reason why people stay within a company, it's not pay, it's not compensation, it's not benefits, it's the question that most people don't ask. Do I have a friend at work? This is the number one reason, according to Mercer and other employment engagement surveys.
Wow.
Do I have a friend at work? So if you create this camaraderie, if you create this environment where people, like, to your point, Jay, you're talking about the business summits in the schools, like, and people are like taking the guards down and helping each other, like, you're feeling like a musketeer. You're one of the
Yeah,
team, and you're helping each other, and it's like it's one for one for all for one.
yeah.
It's a different mindset because you don't want
It
to
is.
let the team down.
It's amazing, eh? Like I just find it so amazing when you see that. Do you think business will continue this mindset? You don't think this will get derailed by anything?
Well, we're seeing the proliferation of AI, and most people fear AI. From my perspective, AI, it's just a tool that can make your life a lot easier, that can make your job a lot easier. There's nothing to be feared about AI. It's just there to make you better, to make your life easier. It's just going to be different, but it's not going to be worse. In many cases, it's going to be better, but it's going to be different. And, like, I'm a change management practitioner. When change is hard, I get that, but it's like, I mean, friction created fire, fire created evolution, right? Like, it's like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
need that friction, you need that change to grow.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I find that too. You need to have that, and we always say you have to put the reps in.
Hmm.
You got to put the reps in. And even my friend today, Sean, he called, and we were talking about all the things that we both have going on and things like this. And I said to him, I said, a couple of years ago, you said, like many years ago, many, not even a couple, like 4 years ago, we did a show in Toronto together. And he said to them, Jay, just to put the reps in, put the reps in. So
Yes.
today I got to talk to him, and I said,
Yeah.
you couldn't be more right. I
Yeah.
put the reps in, and I said all these things, like getting to meet you as well. All these people I get to meet now is just fascinating. I'm blown away,
Yeah.
because I'm very grateful, and I think that's a part of
Yeah.
also, I think, people that I find, and that's an authenticity. I usually get in trouble with because I try to be so pure and real. What you see, what you get is me. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
not I'm not this other
we're
guy.
looking
And
for
I
person
usually
behind.
get in trouble.
Yeah.
I'm pure and 100% is what you get. And I've met people that are not like that,
Yeah.
unfortunately, and that is what it is. Unfortunately, I get it. And but yeah, I said to Sean, I said, thank you, because I don't think I would have been able to do this if I didn't put those reps in. And a lot of people want that instant success, though. Do you see that? A
Yeah.
lot of people want this
For
instant
sure.
success.
For sure. And this is it's kind of funny because like this afternoon I was meeting with one of my mentees, and we were talking about it, and so I'm naturally a really high energy person. We were talking about the reps, and I said I work 6 days a week. I love what I do, but that means that every week I put 15% more than most people. 15%. You
Dude,
compound it on a week by week basis, it becomes an exponential difference.
oh my
So
God.
it's
It's
uh,
incredible. You said that.
it you have to put the reps in. That's how you get better, and you have
So
to enjoy the things you do. But you get better with time. You fall
so
in
I
love with the things that you're good at.
well, I find, it's funny because a lot of people, I think, also go, I have to do so much more than someone else. Or, so I have to show you this. I'll put this on the screen for everyone to see this as well. So
Please do.
this is my theory. And I'm so glad that we met, because this is exactly, we've got the same mindset here. I'll share the screen here,
Yeah,
but this is my theory too. Is where's my screen? This, boom. Here we go. Pull it up. There we go.
pushback.
Right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right? I believe in the theory that you just have to do 10% more than anyone else.
yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's not 50%, it's not 100%, or whatever the
Yeah,
case is. It's only 50%. And
yeah,
a lot of people go, what do you mean? Like, honestly, I have seen in business, and I've worked with so many restaurants
yeah,
or so many people. And I'm like, you just have to do 10% more. What's that mean?
yeah,
I said, well, if they post once, you post 10. Like, or you post, 10% of the one. Like
yeah.
you just do 10% more than anyone else, and you will clubber anyone in the industry. And
Are
I
you
think that's
familiar
in
with the
business
rule?
in general.
Are you familiar with the rule of 72?
No, no. Tell me what.
So in the venture capital and private equity industry, we have this rule. It's called the rule of 72. So
Okay,
essentially, the rule of
I've
72.
been writing everything you did down, just by the way. So
So, anyways, the rule of
page two.
72 is a really simple way of determining how long would it take for something to double. So if you take 72 and in this case do divided by 10,
Okay.
so it would take 7 months for something to double, 7.2 months. So no
Oh,
matter what you do, but just by doing 10% more, you're
yeah.
gonna double. Like let's say that you're growing at 10% a month or 10% a year. Like if it's 10% a month, you're gonna double your revenue in 7 months.
No way. You know
Yeah,
what's interesting by that?
because
That's so good, because we did a thing the other day and we actually had Vince on. He's an economist and one of the smartest guys in the industry. Anyways, Vince was on. He was just messaging me earlier today. Is that Vince was on? He said we looked at the overall profit range for restaurants, and we went back and we looked at how much money, like how much more sales
yeah,
do you have to
yeah,
make the same profits, and when does that equal out? It was 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, you had to do half the sales to make the same profit you did today.
yeah,
So that means today you have to double your
yeah.
sales to make what you made 20 years ago.
But
That
but
is crazy.
for sure, for sure. In the statistics, I mean, obviously there's restaurants,
Yeah.
but the statistic is that the average profit margin for a restaurant is 3 to 5%. Now think about if I lower my turnover costs, if I
Yeah.
improve my integration, if I elevate my experience, if I launch a newsletter, and if I do the hub and spoke model where I create, you said it, Jay, like I mean, in the restaurant industry, one of the most important metrics is what is my revenue per square foot, or what is
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah,
revenue
yeah.
per
Sales per
foot.
square foot. Yeah, yeah.
So if you only employ the hub and spoke model and improve your profit margin from 3 to 4.5%, you're doubling, you increasing your profit by 50%. And
Yeah.
so if you continue to do this, you can easily get your profit margin to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8%. And the better you get, the bigger you get, the more tools you have at your disposal. So it becomes another virtuous cycle.
Yeah. That is crazy. That's so good. I'm going to use that to me too, by the way. I love it. I love it. Well, first of all, I want to thank you. We could talk all night, but I don't want to take all your time up. You are incredible. I just want to thank you for your time, and you bring so much energy. I can see why you're a mentor, because you do bring energy that's positive and exciting, and I feel that with you. So thank you for that. That
Pleasure,
is just
Jay.
outstanding.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just want to wrap this all up. And what's the one thing that you would say to businesses or people that want to become an entrepreneur? What's the one thing? You always look for that one thing. What is that one thing?
Form the kitchen cabinet. And what I mean by
Okay.
this
Yeah.
is you need to form a group of trusted advisors, and I call it kitchen cabinet because you like when you first starting out, you're not going to have formal mentors or advisors or coaches,
Yep.
but you would have spouses, you would have brothers or sisters or parents so form that kitchen cabinet, that run the ideas by them, get their advice, because they will give you advice. I mean, in some cases, maybe a little bit sugar coated because it's family,
Yeah.
but form that kitchen cabinet of friends. It would give you an idea early signals as to what are the ideas we're pursuing. Because if it's worth pursuing, the next step is like, well, would you give me money to fund my venture? And if the answer is yes, then you have something.
That is awesome. That is
Yeah.
awesome. That's great advice. Well, thank you so much for your
Pleasure,
time.
Jay.
And we're gonna have you back, and I think we're gonna get you in some of our summits and stuff like this
Sounds
down
good.
the road. But
Sounds
don't
good.
go anywhere. We're gonna roll it up here, and I just want to thank you and all the best to you as well. And we'll talk
Thank
soon.
you. Okay.